What's the most elaborate catering job you've ever had?
Oh my!
The hardest work, a
Elaborate.
disaster story, a success story.
We did a catered event down at an art gallery on Milwaukee Avenue off of North Avenue for a congressional candidate. His name was Jim Ascot. He was a Greek man from the western suburbs who ran against, I think it was Danny Davis.
I would have been rooting for Danny.
Yeah, well, Danny kicked his butt. That was fair. It was very elaborate, and we had we had to set up a mock kitchen in the basement of this place, and he ended up not winning the race, getting less than 10% of the vote, and then stiffing us out of some money.
How elaborate though was the food? Give me?
Honestly, the food wasn't elaborate at that. How elaborate is my food? I don't go for elaborate. I go for flavor profiling, okay? Well, elaborate costs a lot of money.
You are listening to Live from the Heartland on WLUW 88.7, Loyola University's community radio station, Chicago Sound Alliance. And I'm Michael James. I'm the host for this morning's edition, at least the first part of it. And one of the reasons I got Terry Feingold to come on the show, besides him being an excellent conversationalist, I talk to him most mornings, is that we have a new little event happening at the No Exit Cafe, which is having a resurgence not only because it won all these Jeff Awards and has great plays, but there is a full schedule of events coming up there with plays and music and various circus acts and burlesque. But we are starting a guest chef night. And it's going to take off on the 22nd of June. That's a Monday night. And Kathy Monk, who is not only a guest chef for that night, but also the regular chef at the No Exit, she's got a menu planned that includes a roast leg of lamb with roasted rosemary potatoes, mango chutney, peas tossed in butter and mint, and a number of other things. But on the following week, on the second week of the new No Exit Guest Chef Night, we're going to feature Terry Feingold. And Terry, you've put together a delicious meal. Why don't you share some information about what you're planning to put together for us that night?
Well, first of all, I'll tell you that it's on June 29th this year. I don't know if you mentioned that, but we're going to start the meal off with a salad of mesclun greens with dried cherries, gorgonzola cheese, and toasted walnuts, and that'll be tossed in a vinaigrette, a balsamic vinaigrette. And then for the entree, you're going to have a choice of either a quinoa stuffed pepper, which is delicious. It's filled with lemon zested filling of quinoa, spinach, pine nuts, that kind of thing. And the other thing is a brined, and the other option for the non-vegan vegetarians is a brined pork loin marinated in adobo sauce, and then it's served with an apricot pine nut mole, which is quite delicious.
That does sound good. I'm going to try to eat some of all of it. But how about telling people what quinoa is and why it's important, and then let's go to that adobo sauce and tell us a little bit about that. So some of our listeners may not know about those.
An adobo sauce is a sauce that's Caribbean originated. It's a little spicy. It's got a little kick of chipotle pepper, not too much, and because it's the marinade, it'll be infused into the flavor of the meat. The more important sauce is the sauce that's underneath the pork loin, and that's the mole sauce. The mole sauce is an apricot pine nut mole. I worked with Rick Bayless quite a bit before I became and had my own company, and it's actually his mole. Quinoa is a native Peruvian grain that actually is really good for you. It digests in your system not like a carbohydrate, but more like a fruit, and it's real easy to cook.
And it's grown in high altitudes of like Peru and places down there.
Yeah, Chile.
It's catching on. I know we had it here when I first heard about it years ago. We've never made it a staple, but how often do you eat quinoa?
I eat quinoa quite a bit. I'm diabetic, so I eat quinoa. I don't follow a strict diet, but quinoa should be part of a diabetic diet because, like I said, it doesn't break down into the sugars that would cause you to have a problem with your blood sugar levels.
You mentioned working with Rick Bayless.
Yeah.
And Rick Bayless, I love watching him on TV. My daughter, who's in Argentina right now, Casey Blue, hello if you're listening. we watch Rick Bayless a lot, and I keep thinking about, I'd like to build a fire pit like he has. Tell us about working with him, what it was like.
Well, it was
what you learned.
Quite an honor. I didn't learn much because Nancy actually learned more than I did because that's my wife and partner in Golden Pear.
Nancy Bacchus.
And she went to Oaxaca with Rick Bayless on a food journalist trip. She's a journalist, and she worked as the food editor for Restaurants and Institution magazine for 8 years. Anyhow, I worked with Rick on a couple of occasions, one time at his restaurant and one time at an IACP, the International Conference of Culinary Professionals, at the Hilton Hotel in Chicago. I served some of his food, and we just worked together on a couple of recipes.
Now, when you do this mole sauce, which you're going to serve at the No Exit on the 29th,
yes.
Is that from scratch, the mole sauce? Do
Absolutely.
you use a basic La Preferita? Do you start with a little La Preferita? Tell us how you get this mole sauce. Do it from start to finish
I'm not sure I can because I have
to
follow them as best I can. You
no exact amounts here.
Oh man, you're putting me on the spot with a recipe that's very complex. And it is all done from scratch, and it's done with a couple of different kinds of chilies. There's some chocolate involved in it, and you cook it down and basically fry the chilies, de-seed the chilies, fry the chilies. Then you have to rehydrate the chilies. Then you have to there's a lot of product in it. There's some roasted garlic in it. There's toasted pine nuts in it. The chilies then have to be scraped out. You make a paste. And then from that, you refry the paste and rehydrate the thing. And it's quite an extensive process, but it's absolutely worth it. It's a marriage of flavors. It's a marriage of salty, sweet, bitter, and it's absolutely delicious. A little chocolate hint in there.
Oh, it sounds delicious.
It's hard to explain on the radio.
No, this is great. This is great. Maybe we're going to start when you're cooking it. We'll film it and we'll have it put that on YouTube.
I'd like to add something that for the price that you're charging for this meal,
Which we're not talking
about on the air directly. It is absolutely a value. So if I were you, I would rush out to the No Exit Cafe and try this menu. It's delicious.
We're gonna encourage people who are interested in getting more information about this radio show, or if they want to know about the guest chef night at the No Exit, to contact me, Michael James, just do it, michael@heartlandcafe.com. That's be michael@heartlandcafe.com. Before we close down this segment of the show, Terry Feingold, can you tell me, did you ever take any cooking classes? Did you ever go to cooking school? Did you learn this all from your dad, from your grandpa, from your wife?
Yeah.
From Rick Bayless? Where did you learn all this stuff?
It's a kind of a combination of retaining things that work and losing things that don't work. I'm a flavor profiler. I do not have a formal education in the culinary arts. My wife has a formal education in the culinary arts. It's self-taught. I'm self-taught, and I like to think that.
So you were a businessman who liked to cook and eat, and now you're a businessman in the food sector.
Well, you move away from home, you got to eat, and you might as well eat something that you like, and it might as well be something that's good for you and tastes good. There's no point in going to McDonald's, like my friend.
Yeah, well, there's not too many people in this room that are eating at McDonald's. They're actually eating some good food right now. Okay, well, that's it. Let's remind people once again that you're going to be cooking up this really scrumptious meal. It'll be at the No Exit Cafe Guest Chef Night on the 29th of June. Doors will open at 6 o'clock. Try to email michael@heartlandcafe.com to make some reservations. And it's always nice talking to you, Terry.
Good talking to you, Michael.
And we'll look forward to talking to you in a few minutes, because I'm going to bring up Katie Hogan, who's going to come up with Dr. Laura Green, and we're going to take a short musical break while we change places. Stay tuned for more Live from the Heartland.